What we're doing today is we're changing out this lock on a 16 plate Ford Transit Custom. This has been sat here for a while and everything's seized up in there, so it doesn't even, it's not turning at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace that so it works out. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to take off all this door paneling here to get access to the back of the lock. So this is the first bit, we just need to pop this bit off here, and that gives us access to a couple of screws in there. Then we've got a wee cover just behind the door handle here. That comes off. We've got this little bit here we need to get out. There we go, make sure we don't lose it. And then coming down, we need to take this off here. I'll come back to that. There's two at the bottom, and then there's another wee one in there. There's 8 screws, so you've got one in there, 2 there, 1 here, 1 in there, 1 in here, and then 2 underneath here. So it's just a case of getting them all out. So taking all these out, make sure you keep them in somewhere that you're not going to lose them. It's just a case of getting the door panel off. You just need to get a pry in there and just pry it off. But you need to just kind of work your way around the bottom. The screws out and you've got the door panel unclipped. There's 3 bits you have to unclip, so you need to unclip the handle, the locking, and then the light, the mirrors. Mirrors? The windies here. And then to get access to the original door, you just need to peel back this cover. Off, and you bring this back a wee bit so you can get access. What we're looking for is this little bit here. So that just comes out. And then, right now the issue we're having with this one obviously is this, the way you remove these. Normally get one of these out is you put the key in, turn it, and then from the inside there you push this button here. And then when you let go of that, that button stays in, which then allows you to turn the whole kind of barrel thing to the left and then slide out. But because our key won't turn, we can't put this in, push this in. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to drill through the front of the one on the door, create enough space in it to push it in, to then pull it out and replace it with this one. Right, so we want to reuse this, so we want to obviously be careful about that there. The lock out, so we had to drill it out, get that button in, and then we're having issues. It was turning, but it wasn't pulling it, so we had to use a bit of brute force. But there's the old lock there. Right, okay, so we've got the old lock out and we've put the new lock in. And this now operates as it should. So locks and unlocks. So what we're going to do now is just put the door panel back on, making sure that you hook up the locks, the handle and the windows. Just in reverse is what we did before. So connect all them, click it all back into place and put the 8 screws back in, then put all the covers back on. Right, so before putting the panel back on, I just like to make sure that everything works as it should, just to make sure we're going to have no issues. Like you take to put the panel back on and then go to test something doesn't work, you have to take it all back off. Door panel's back on, just a case of going round and putting all the screws back in, making sure you get all 8 of them. Now this So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So now it's just a case of putting all the covers back on and that'll be that all sorted. There we go. Everyone's sorted. Perfect. Right, that's that bit back on. Sorted. So the original plan with this was get a new lock on the door and change the wafers in that to match the original key and match the ignition. But the type of lock that we got, I couldn't get it apart to get at the wafers. Normally on a normal one you have like a C-clip that you take off the top and it just falls apart. And you can get into the wafers with that one. I couldn't figure it out. So what we're going to have to do, bit of a pain in the arse, but it's what we need to do. We've installed that lock. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the ignition out and change the wafers on the ignition to match the new lock, and then we're going to cut a new blade for the original key. So this key will work on the ignition and the door. Get the ignition out, you just need to take these covers off here. So this one just pops off. Get this wee side one. And then there's 2 screws holding this panel. There's one right here. One screw that. And then there's another one just in here. Right, once we've got all the panels off, we want to take this bit off here, this little cover here. So there's this little clip around the back. And that just clips off. And then what you want to do is we need the key. Use this one. And there are 2 holes, I'm not sure if you can see that. 2 holes here. You want to get this hole towards the back. Turn the key to position 1. Push something up like an Allen key or this little device I've got. Flathead. Push it up. And then just wiggle this about and then the key will come out. So what you're doing there is you're pushing this in, which allows that to be essentially slide out. And then once we've got that out, we can take this apart, get rid of the wafers and then change the wafers over. Right, once we've got the barrel, it's just a case of taking it apart. So there's a little bit in here, we need to pop that out. That comes out. And then that little bit, the wee bit we pushed in earlier, that'll come out. And then if we push this down, the whole thing comes away. Comes out like that. And then what you want to do is you want to put the key in. And it just slides out. Now the reason you want to put the key in is because with the key in, none of the wafers will fall out. They'll all stay in. So once you've got that out, it can be a case of taking all the old wafers out, putting the new ones in. All the old wafers out, and I've taken out all the old springs, and I've just given it a good clean up, kind of all the parts and that, just to get it all the old gunk and stuff off it. Then I ordered all the biting to the new key, so I've got them all laid out, and I've got the new springs. So it's just a case of putting them all back together. Now the way this works is you've got you've got 5 numbers really, 1 to 5 on your biting. But you've got 2 sets, you've got 1 to 5, then you've got 11 to 15. Yeah, so how that works is if it's on the left hand side, like you can see here, so it's spring on the left, then it's going to be 11 to 15. If it's on the right hand side, then it's 1 to 5. Now because the biting only goes 1 to 5, if it's a left hand side one, so anything between 11 and 15, you just drop the 1. So for example, a 14, that's biting number 4, but the 1 there, the 14 is there, so you know it's like a left hand side one. So it's just a case of getting your biting, putting all the springs in, and putting all the new wafers back in. The springs in at the top, so I'm going to do the top ones, turn it over under the bottom ones, so slide that in there, and then you get a good bounce on it, so that's 4. There you go. So when you put the key in, what you're looking for is everything to be flush, as you can see there. Everything is flush along the top and flush along the bottom. So that means that'll turn the lock. If I pull this out slightly, you can see how everyone kind of sticks out and it sits up proud. So obviously if it's like that, it's not going to turn. So you want it all flush. That's a good way to know if it's right. When you put the key in, that should all be sitting flush like that there. So that's all the wafers rebuilt. So now it's just a case of getting it back in the housing and all that, getting all of that built back up. So as I was saying, when it's all flush, when you put it back in the housing, there you go, it should turn like no bother at all. So it's turning the full from one end to the other, absolutely no bother whatsoever. That's how you know as well as it being flush. I mean, see if it wasn't flush, you wouldn't get it in without forcing it. But you can see how smooth it is. So that's how you know you've got the biting right. So it's just a case of putting all the housing back together. When you've got all your wafers and that done, to put this back together, it's just in the reverse of what we did earlier. So you've got this little part here, stick that in there. And then if you take that out, you've got this. You want to make sure that lines up with that, because if it doesn't, it's not going to go all the way in. So put that in, and then we're lining the wee plastic bit up with this here. Press it in, and it'll go all the way in, and it'll be seated in there, and that's it fixed. Turn it over, and then place this little bit back in. If you remember, this is the bit that you have to push in to get it out of the barrel. So put that in there, and then put the wee holding clip in. And then use your little, what have I done with mine? Use this to pop that back in there, and then that'll be everything. That's everything back together pretty much, so it's nice and simple. So once you've got everything built back up, you need to put the key back in and then turn it to position 1, and that basically allows this bit to line up with that bit in there, and then it's just a case of pushing it back in until it clicks. There we go, and then that's in there, and then just get a wee check. Yep, no bother. And then it's a case of putting it back together. So first thing, make sure you put this back on, because this is the actual immobiliser coil. If you don't have this, the engine won't start. So that just pops back on there. There we go. And then I always like to check make sure the engine starts everything as it should before I put the rest back together. Right, so once you've got this all put back together and all back in, and you've got the cover clipped in. It's just a case of putting all the paneling back in. So we'll start with this one. Pretty much is the reverse of what we did earlier. And then you just have to put the two screws back in that we took out, and that will hold all that bit together. So the first one, and that's that sorted. And all that's in there. And then you just need to adjust that back to how it was before. And then we're just putting these panels back on, and that'll be us all sorted. Right, so these all just clip back in. So that's back on, that's everything. So what we've done is we have just be the wrong one. So we changed this. I'll actually use the same key. So that was seized before, so now they've got a working lock, and then we also changed the wafers in there, so that now matches. You know, the battery's dead in this, so I can't even start it, but as long as everyone turns, that's all good. And that's it, pretty much sorted.